We've all seen it. Maybe, you're the student, it's 2 in the morning, you're staring down a huge research period.
And you're the instructor who has to grade it.
Exactly. So you take a difficult prompt,
Mm-hmm.
you paste it into an AI, and back comes this answer that's just, well, technically stellar. The grammar is perfect. The structure is flawless.
It looks like an easy A.
It really does. But is it?
Not always. I mean, that hyper-competent but totally generic text, that's often the first signal to a professor that AI was used not as a tool, but as a total replacement for thought.
And that's the breaking point, isn't it? That's where you go from using technology effectively to, well, academic self-sabotage.
Absolutely. AI isn't going anywhere, but the way a lot of students are using it passively without thinking is doing real measurable harm.
To their education and maybe even their academic careers down the line.
Which is exactly why we're doing this deep dive. We've gone through a stack of sources studies from Nature, Human Behavior, OECD reports, university policy changes, all of it.
And we've boiled it all down to the 7 most common and, frankly, most dangerous errors students are making.
Right. Our mission here is to give you a shortcut, to give you some concrete, research-backed ways to turn that AI from a liability into a genuine academic ally.
Because the stakes are incredibly high.
Yeah.
The goal is to move you from just being a passive consumer of AI output to becoming a critical, creative, and powerful user of it.
You want to use it to climb higher, not as a crutch that ends up weakening your intellectual muscles over time.
Okay, so let's start with the big ones, the core cognitive dangers. Because this isn't just about a grade on one paper.
No, this is about your ability to learn, period. And the first, most fundamental mistake is error number 1. Using AI as a replacement for critical thinking.
This is what you were just talking about, the autopilot move. The student just hands it all over, the drafting, the analysis, putting sources together.
Everything. They just hand it to the chatbot, hit submit, and never really engage with the material at all.
It saves time, sure, I get that. But what is the hidden cost?
The cost is, and this is not an exaggeration, profound cognitive decline. We have some pretty startling data on this.
Okay.
A 2023 study in Nature Human Behavior looked at this exact thing. And they found that the passive use of AI, so just taking the text without really engaging with it, it reduces your long-term retention of that material by a staggering 40%.
40%. Wait, say that again?
40.
Wow. So if you're paying for a degree, you're basically choosing to throw away almost half the knowledge you're supposed to be getting.
In a way, yes.
So what's the mechanism there? Why is that so damaging?
Well, it defeats something called the retrieval practice effect. Learning isn't just about putting information in, it's about pulling it out. When you struggle to write an analysis yourself, you make connections, you retrieve facts. That effort is what actually builds the knowledge in your brain.
The struggle is the point.
The struggle is the point. And when the AI just hands you the polished answer, you skip that whole process. Your brain doesn't work, so it doesn't learn.
So the solution is to flip the script. You have to use the AI as a co-pilot, not the pilot.
Exactly. Ask it for counter-arguments or to make an outline, sure. But then your job starts. You have to rewrite those ideas in your own voice, contrast them with your assigned readings. You have to be the lead investigator.
And that leads right into the next big one, which is error number 2, confusing plausible with true. These models are just so good at sounding authoritative.
Which is so dangerous when they're just making things up. This is that whole hallucination risk we hear about.
Right.
The AI isn't built to tell the truth. It's built to predict the next most likely word to make a sentence sound convincing. It is essentially just confidently guessing.
So it's not lying, it's just writing good fiction with perfect grammar.
That's a great way to put it. And it's infecting academic work on a massive scale. The OECD put out a report in 2024. It found that 67% of university students admitted they had cited false AI-generated information without checking it.
67%. That's 2/3 of students.
2/3 are building arguments on facts or sources that are completely fabricated.
That is genuinely alarming. That alone should make every student pause. It's like an academic integrity time bomb.
It is. The only way to stop it is a simple rule. Verify before you cite. Every single time.
So if the AI gives you a source, a study, a name,
you immediately go to Google Scholar, to JSTOR, to a reliable database, and you confirm it's real. And that the AI summarized it correctly. If you can't find it, you can't use it. End of story.
Okay, so if we connect these two things, outsourcing your thinking and then blindly trusting the output, we get to a bigger sort of meta-level problem.
Yeah.
This brings us to error number 7, not reflecting on your own learning, the metacognition gap.
Right. Metacognition is just thinking about your thinking.
Mhm.
And if a student only focuses on the final product, the grade,
Instead of the process they went through.
exactly, then they develop this really deep cognitive dependence on the tool. They lose the ability to even know what they know.
It's the difference between asking, what's the answer, versus asking, here's my attempt. Where did I go wrong?
That's it, exactly. And the research backs this up. A big meta-analysis in 2025 found that students who use AI without that kind of self-reflection learn way less than students who use it to, say, quiz them or critique their first draft.
So they're using it to check their learning, not do their learning.
Precisely.
So we need to actually formalize that step. After you use the AI for a big task, what are the key questions you need to ask yourself?
It should just become a habit. You finish the task and you ask, 1, what did I actually learn here that I didn't know before?
Okay.
2, could I explain this to someone else right now without any help? And 3, what would I do differently next time to rely on it a little less?
That reflection is what turns the tool into actual knowledge.
That's how it sticks.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Let's shift gears now into something with more immediate consequences. The academic integrity minefield. We're talking sanctions, fraud.
Right. And the foundation of all of this is probably the most boring, but also the most dangerous mistake, which is error number 3. Ignoring university AI policies.
This one just seems inexcusable.
It really is. Every single university has updated its code of honor for generative AI. Not reading it is it's willful ignorance, and it leaves you totally exposed.
And these schools are not playing around. You found a concrete example of this.
Oh, yeah. A very clear one. In 2024, the University of Oxford sanctioned 28 students.
28.
28. For submitting work that was found to be 100% AI generated without any declaration. They see it as technological fraud, and the consequences were serious.
Wow. Okay, so enforcement is real. The simple fix here is just transparency.
It's just transparency. Read your school's policy, and when you're allowed to use AI, you just have to declare it. Add a simple sentence. This outline was generated with the help of tool name and then revised and verified by me. Just declare your collaborator.
Even if your collaborator is a bot.
Especially then.
Because that leads us straight to error number 6. Copying without attribution. This is what people think of as plagiarism.
AI plagiarism, yeah. The International Center for Academic Integrity now has a clear definition for it. If you copy and paste text from an AI without completely reformulating it, it's plagiarism.
And that's where students get confused, I think. They feel like it's a tool, not a source.
But you're still claiming ownership of words you didn't originate. The solution is you have to treat the AI output like really rough notes. You have to, 1, rewrite it completely in your own style, your own words.
And 2,
And 2, you still have to cite the tool. You're acknowledging its role in your process. Even citation guides like APA 7th edition now have clear rules for how to cite generative AI.
this seems like a lot of work, though. If you have to totally rewrite it anyway, why not just write it from scratch?
Because it creates better work. The goal isn't speed, it's learning.
Hmm.
If you force yourself to rewrite a perfect paragraph, you have to wrestle with the ideas, you internalize them, you learn the skill by trying to reproduce the quality.
Okay, so transparency is your armor. Let's move to the last section, which is about actually mastering the tool, because this brings us to a huge operational failure. Error 4, not adapting the prompt to the academic context.
This is such a massive wasted opportunity. Students just ask these generic questions like, explain the theory of relativity.
And they get a generic encyclopedia-style answer back that's useless for a real assignment.
Right. It's like asking a surgeon, tell me about medicine. You need to be specific. You need to be demanding.
Okay, so give us an example. Generic prompt versus a really good one.
Okay. Generic prompt, explain the French Revolution. A high-leverage academic prompt needs 4 key things.
Let's see them.
1, academic level and role. Tell it, act as a third-year political science research assistant.
I see. Give it a job.
Give it a job. 2, the focus and format. Generate a 10-point outline focusing on the shift from constitutional monarchy to the reign of terror.
Super specific.
3, constraints. Each point should be a thesis statement, no more than 2 sentences. And 4, the citation style. Ensure all examples conform to APA 7th style.
Okay, the output from that second prompt is going to be a million times more useful.
Instantly actionable. You have to treat it like a demanding manager, not a casual friend.
Right. And our final error, which is maybe the most subtle, is error number 5, underestimating algorithmic bias.
This comes from this flawed idea that because it's a machine, it must be objective. It's not. It's trained on the internet with all of our human biases baked right in.
So if the training data is mostly from, say, Western male authors, that's what the AI is going to spit back out.
It just becomes an echo chamber. It reinforces the dominant perspective. A study from the MIT Media Lab in 2025 showed that these models significantly underrepresent authors from the Global South on topics like global development.
So if you ask it for a summary of feminist theory, it might just give you a few famous historically dominant figures and completely ignore modern voices or voices from other cultures.
You're not getting an objective answer. You're getting the statistically most common answer.
So how do you fight that?
You have to actively push against it. Use the AI for your first draft of ideas, but then you must supplement it with diverse readings. You have to ask the critical question. What voices are missing from this response and why?
Force yourself outside that algorithmic comfort zone.
You have to.
Okay, so let's boil this all down. We've covered 7 critical pitfalls.
And the synthesis is pretty clear, I think. The AI itself isn't the enemy. Passive, uncritical use is the enemy. These 7 errors aren't personal flaws, they're just huge opportunities to get better, to become a more conscious, powerful learner.
I think the biggest takeaway here for you listening is that the true competitive advantage in this new era isn't about knowing what the chatbot can say. It's about how you question it, how you challenge it, and how you transform its output into your own knowledge.
That process, that intellectual wrestling match, that's what separates a real professional from someone who just outsources their education.
So we want to challenge you. Take the 7-day challenge. Every day this week, use AI for something different. Use it to summarize a hard reading. Use it to debate an idea with you. Use it to critique your own writing.
And see what you learn when you force yourself to be the editor, not just the audience. And if you want a practical checklist, look for the guide we mentioned in our sources. AI Ethics in the University, a checklist for conscious students. It's a great way to put all this into practice.
Go forth, question the output, and conquer those algorithms. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.